road. We're gonna try getting tomorrow too. So, and get ready for the storm they're talking for.
Thank you for picking up that
Yeah.
carcass.
That did not, he had other issues than other thing of getting hit.
Have mange?
Yeah, it was, I didn't realize that's in season right now, must be for them. Cause there was a vehicle on, Putnam Forest, and it looked like it must have been a trapper, and there's one that they had gotten.
But if it has mange, it'd be good to report that to the Fish and Wildlife.
Well, I don't know for sure, but it didn't look like it was very healthy.
They have a lot of hair missing.
It did, yep.
That's pretty typical for mange.
So,
Now, Fish and Game, they don't want to have anything to do with that. I mean, wouldn't they want to look for maybe rabies or something like that?
we've never picked them up before. That's why I said, no, we don't do it. It's either, I think Walter has picked them up in the past, but we've never done it in the past,
It
so.
just looks so bad there.
I called, to get a hold of Fish and Game, you call the dispatch, state police, and they said they will not pick it up.
Right.
They didn't even ask the question, of anything else, they will not.
Well, won't they come get a deer?
They will not pick it up.
They won't.
There's two different issues.
Turkey for me that was pretty ill.
There's two different issues. If you're asking them to pick up a carcass just because it's unsightly and it offends somebody, they won't do that. But in this case, where it has rabies, or not rabies, but it has the mange, then that's a health issue, and then it's not something to talk to the game warden about it's something to talk to the biologist about. So, you've disposed of it? It's gone. Okay, so never mind.
Well, let me tell you the process. You call the general number over at A&R. They give you a selection, the Fish and Game over there tells you they will not talk to you. Call the state police, you call the state police says they won't do anything about animals. At that time, I didn't know that there was anything, this stuff, I might have said something to her, but I'm not sure they would have come out even then. The state doesn't care about anything that we want to do, period.
Actually, just this summer, there was a turkey that had a disease.
Yeah.
And I called the state police, they gave me the game warden. The game warden actually gave us permission to just dispose of this, and he came and picked it up. And then he sent it to the state biologist. But yes, they do want to document it.
Right.
They will come pick it up with their gloves and their bagging, and they ship it off to
Okay,
freeze it.
then they need to tell dispatch to ask questions.
Well, I would have called Chris Bernier and
You
said-
cannot call Chris Bernier.
I can call Chris
You
Bernier.
can
if I want to call Chris Bernier.
You can call him.
Your job.
But
Okay.
it's another, there's a little more to the issue. And when you ask people to pick those things up and they're not trained for that, or, I mean, you're exposing our people. I would have somebody pick it up that's trained to deal with that.
Let's not have it held, I mean, we need to have a policy, find out what the chain of command is in the event that it happens. It's not something we're gonna solve here today. VTrans, who has a certificate? Oh,
It's right
Cynthia?
here.
Okay.
It's all ready for everybody to sign.
Yeah,
It's what you want, if you looked at it on email, I sent you on
Yeah,
email.
yeah.
If you agree with it, everybody should
Yeah,
sign
it's,
it.
it's okay, I talked
I
to
have
Bill
to,
about
I
it.
have to mail it tomorrow.
I'm satisfied, so,
That's
it's, and Cynthia, you have the overweight permit also?
yeah, for,
While we're doing that, you can be signing this thing.
Can I have a motion on that first?
Oh, okay.
On the mileage
All right, all in favor of the mileage as
reported?
reported, say aye.
All right.
Do I have a motion?
Well, any opposed? No, okay.
All right, I got it.
The overweight permit, Cynthia?
Norman Den Transit
Yes.
from Naperville, Quebec.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, okay.
And I think I sent that around to you already to look at.
No, he signed
I
it.
need a motion to approve that so I can sign it.
Okay, so we need a motion to the,
Some fancy writing.
To approve
to overweight permit
and to approve it and allow me to sign it.
Yeah, I allow it to sign.
So
Do we have
moved.
a Second? Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay. You signed this, Bill, haven't you?
Hello.
The letter to Chester, this is not, and I want to make it very clear that this is not a selectman thing. It was something that I talked to Bill Kearns about, and we checked the law, the highway law, and basically, I'll just summarize this law here. It says, when a highway or bridge is out of repair or unsafe for travel, any 3 citizens or taxpayers in the state may give written and signed notice to the insufficiency to the selectmen of the town in which the highway or bridge is situated, setting forth in general terms the location of the highway or bridge and the nature of the insufficiency. If the town neglects for 72 hours to respond, either denying the allocation or to commence work upon the highway or bridge, or fails to continue the work in good faith and with reasonable dispatch until the highway or bridge is put in good and sufficient repair, the citizens may file with one of the county road commissioners or the superior court for the county in which the highway or bridge is situated, a written complaint signed and sworn to, setting forth in general terms the location of the highway bridge and the nature of the insufficiency. The complaint shall also give the commissioner a security deposit for otherwise for the cost proceeding under the complaint. And then it goes on to say, the commissioner, after receiving the complaint with deposit or security, shall promptly notify the selectmen of the town and one or more of the persons filing the complaint of the time and place where the commissioner will meet for the examination of the highway or bridge for conducting a hearing upon complaint. The commissioners, or the majority of them, shall examine the highway and the bridge and hear all the interested parties as whether the public demands that the highway or bridge be repaired and as its condition, and the repairs necessary to make it safe and convenient for public travel. And the cost of the required repairs, the deposit or other security shall be refunded. And it goes on to say that they will force the town to fix it, the state. So after knowing this, I had a petition circulated. We've got, what, over 300-400 signatures, I guess?
Well, I counted 170, plus I have another, we have over 230. I don't know what is still out there.
Anyway, so this is gonna go to we're gonna file this thing. Me personally, I will file it.
Cynthia has a question.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Has anyone talked to the town of Chester?
Yes.
You've talked to the town of Chester, what'd they tell you?
They said they were gonna strip coat it or whatever they call it
Yeah.
this summer.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know where they don't show any money in their budget or anything for doing that except a $300,000 article to, which would not even strip. and
Well, they
not
talk,
even-
in the article, it talks about having a bond for all this, plus they've got something down, they have one article about it, and then they have another one about a capital budget item for it too.
The capital budget.
Did anyone tell them that we're going to,
Well,
complain?
He found out from the Chester Gazette that it was there. He called me, and so I talked to him about it, and I said that we're going forward with it because it's a mess. It's dangerous, and it needs to be fixed,
I know, I agree.
Yeah, but exactly, and so will they fix it, and will what they plan to do this summer satisfy the hearing officers that the judge appoints to hear this thing? I don't know, and if it doesn't, because it's only gonna last a couple of years or whatever, I don't know, but he said that that's what he's gonna do. He thought we were simply signing a petition asking them to do it. He's not familiar with this law, and this law is really specific. This law,
Who's he?
Mr. David Pisha, the town manager.
Town manager.
He's who I talked to. He isn't familiar with, I cited the law to him, but he's not familiar with it at all. And this law is supported by the Supreme Court. There's a case in 1998, Villeneuve versus the town of Essex. And the town of Essex told them that they weren't gonna fix the road, and the Supreme Court said, when you follow this law, the people telling you to fix the road have the authority to tell you to fix the road, you're gonna fix the road, and at your expense, so,
Well,
it's
they can fix it
enforceable.
whatever way they want then.
But they have to
They have
fix
to
it.
meet whatever the hearing officer says needs to be done.
The
Well,
road
I
commission.
just wonder if they were trying to do what Rockingham did with the 121 down there. They got a lot of money from the state, and I would like, maybe they want to get more money from the state too to fix it better.
I don't know.
Because I remember
I'll tell
going
you,
to testify for that.
in their
at the
2018 budget,
Yeah,
look how much money they spent on it in the 2018 budget. They spent $60,000 on pavement
In the whole town?
in the whole town. Now, they had a bond to do that work out there on Popple Dungeon, but from their general fund, they spent $60,000.
but with that little section that they did fix, they spent more than that, plus they got some state funds too, it said.
They got money for that, but they didn't do anything to that highway after Irene. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And we did $1.7 million worth of work on 121 here. They didn't do anything.
So anyway, so that petition will go out and we'll see how it develops. I personally don't feel that, I mean, this is my personal feeling, that I don't think the state will enforce the law, but that's,
The Supreme Court in
But
1998.
but
said
it's in
they
there,
would.
so we'll see what happens. Anyway, and hopefully we can get this road
And
fixed.
who pays the court costs in this?
Whoever is the citizens are
Yeah,
doing
depending on what the cost is, I have some people who will fund the.
Well, should we put it towards the paving then?
it. Didn't that much, we hope. If it's that much,
Hopefully it doesn't cost that much.
otherwise we would just pay it.
I don't know,
It
yes.
could be.
All right,
Joe, I'd like to follow up on Cynthia's comment.
okay.
So, one of my neighbors who happens to live in Chester, I talked to him about the petition, and so he calls me up and says, "What do you know about this article?" So, he suggested, and I went and got a copy of their town report. And if you read the whole, it's Article 2, so it's the second one on their list. But they talk $300,000, but it's Route 35, Green Mountain Turnpike from 103 to the bottom of Flamstone, Coach Road, First Avenue, and Sylvan Road. So by the time you do 300,000 on all those roads, all you've done is put a Band-Aid on everything. And so my feeling is, if this petition went through the proper process and they were to receive the petition before they have their informational meeting, then perhaps they would say, with this many people that have a concern about Route 35, they would perhaps reword this petition or this article to put all the money on Route 35 rather than splitting it up over several roads, which would do a little bit of hardly anything to anything. So,
Danny, in your expert opinion as the road foreman, if the Grafton were to fix that road, what do you think, what would the estimated cost be to fix that road?
If
Probably.
you just overlaid it
Yeah,
and nothing with the base, you're looking at about 130,000 a mile just to do an overlay on it.
It's
okay.
about 2 miles.
And to fix it properly,
Mr. Bacon.
no, I mean, it gives you
I
no,
mean, it'd be like 121 down there, taking 3 feet out. When we did that little section, which we call Jock L's on 121, we did that ourselves in the highways, so we didn't really count all our labor and everything, but all the materials and what we did figure in, I think was like 260,000 or something to do that section, and I think it was 1,900 feet.
But they
And that was 3 feet of base and fabric, culverts, drainage and everything, guardrails, grinding it and new pavement, so it'd be a lot.
Cynthia?
In Article 8, they have, they're gonna put 225,857 transfer, it says, to the bond plan. So that, I would think, would go up to, added to Article 2.
Part of the part of the problem is that they've never done any maintenance on that road for 15 years. They haven't
They
even.
tore it up.
No, that was 25 years ago.
No, I don't think it was that long ago. They tore it up, but then they just put it over a skim coat. And of course, that broke right up.
Well, they need drainage in there.
Well, we're gonna have to do more too.
Bill?
Mr. Fisher said it'd be $4 million to do it from the boundary down to 11. To do it right.
So just put a Band-Aid on it.
The next item we have is job descriptions. Alan and I worked on these job descriptions that were in the file. They're not totally new. And then we had a meeting with, Alan had a meeting with Danny, I believe it was, and then there were some concerns about two employees, and Alan and I met with the two employees, and we made the corrections that they were concerned about. So now we have to, if we'd like to have, to adopt the new job descriptions. And we added one to it. The job descriptions are, there's, the one we added was laborer or part-time. We never had a job description for that. That's for a person who we hire for a month or a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then we have the equipment and truck operator, and then there's the assistant road foreman and the road foreman. So we updated all this. Do you want to say anything else about it?
No, I'll make a motion that we accept them as written and reviewed with us, with workers.
Do we have a second?
You have a comment?
Well, I figured it was always second. We
Yeah,
can discuss
let's
it.
have a second, then we can discuss it. Who seconded? Kathy, you are?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Stan, I know you have a question.
Yeah, on both the foremans and the assistant foremans, on the first page of both, as you go down job duties, bullet 5, it says concerning the maintenance. That, to me, just does not read well. I'll read it, just so everybody hears it. And this is on both the highway foreman and the assistant, and it's in the same place. It's on bullet 5 under job duties.
It's on them all.
Oh, good, okay. So you'll see the one that says concerning the maintenance and construction of highway, roads, infrastructure maintenance, and purchase of equipment, makes timely recommendations to select board as needed on an ad hoc basis, annually for the preparation and presentation of the town highway budget and capital budget. I read that, I just don't think the paragraph reads well. I do have a recommendation that may or may not, again, this is only my opinion. If everybody else likes the other, that's fine. But what I would rather see in there says it makes timely recommendations to the select board concerning the maintenance and reconstruction of highways and infrastructure, as well as the maintenance and purchasing of equipment, prepares and presents highway budget and capital budget needs annually. And I just do that because, to me, that paragraph just does not read right.
I don't have a problem with it.
The rest of it, I think is fine. I don't have a problem anywhere else. It's just that paragraph on, like I say, bullet 5 on both foreman and assistant highway foreman. It just doesn't read
Does
well.
anybody have a problem with the word changing of the bullet 5? I mean, very simple
What
to
do you
change
mean
it.
by ad hoc basis?
Well, we took that out, right? And
No,
yours,
no, what's in there?
yours is ad
Well,
hoc, okay.
in your wording, you took.
Oh, in my word.
Yeah,
yes,
in
yes.
your word,
Oh,
yeah,
my
so
words,
from you.
yes.
So if you accept Stan's, you don't have to worry about it.
Yes, ad hoc is out. I just, it just didn't read.
See, what it says there, well, let's take the last part of the sentence. I didn't write this, it's okay, this, I don't have this craftsmanship in this, but annually for the preparation means overall, you look at all the roads and you make an annual
Yeah.
thing. But also, it wants to bring the attention that you're also responsible. You drive down the road, you see something that's amiss, you do that right then, so it's ad hoc to this. Ad hoc means to this thing right here. That's why and so if you take that out, does it mean anything? I don't know. Makes timely recommendation, select board as needed probably says the same
Same
thing.
thing.
So you could take or
I
add
think it's
ad
clear.
hoc.
I think it's clear. This was, this was not no new language, it was in there. I
That was
think.
in there,
Yeah, so.
Since 2006 or something.
If there's no objection, we'll just make that change.
Well, but I don't get are you starting with makes or is that the first?
That's the first thing.
So
Yes.
capital M,
Yes.
okay, and then give it to me again, please.
It said makes timely, I can give this to you.
Yeah.
Why don't I just give this to
Give
you?
it to you, we'll do it later.
I have it here.
Okay.
It'd be easier.
I do have a question, I think, for the board, and it came up, you must be 21 years of age
No.
to be a road foreman or assistant road foreman or a, whatever the other category is. It was brought to Alan and I's attention that the state of Vermont is unable to fill their positions for their highway departments, and they've reduced the age to 18. And apparently you can get a CDL license at 18. So the question is by keeping it at 21, do we, in the event that we have to replace, and hopefully we're not going to replace anybody, but in the event that we did, is that going to cause a problem? And I don't, and there was an insurance issue with the laborer, but, because we talked about it at 16, and Kim was concerned, and so we made that 18 for the part-time person. But is there any comment about, should we keep it at move it to 18 or keep it at 21?
Well,
Wow.
aren't we looking at experience here? If
That
they're,
was one of my points.
Well, that's the
If
reason
you're
why I
16
think
or
Alan and I
18,
put
how much
21 in there,
experience?
but the question is, it was raised, and let's talk about it.
Well, if you reduce it to 18, that allows more people to apply, but then, in theory, you're gonna take the best qualified person out of that pool, and hopefully that's somebody with some experience, and not the 18-year-old, but it allows the 18. You may have an exceptional young person in town that you'd like to pick up at 18 and groom them.
But remember one thing, if you stay at 21, you then, you don't have the ability to hire a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old. And the 20-year-old might have experience. So the question is, do you keep it at 21 and then eliminate 18, 19, and 20, or do you go to
But
21?
You can also hire the laborer on as a beginning at 18 and then let them work up to that 21.
Yeah, Bill?
Both the laborer and the third man on the crew are 18
Yeah.
in your job
I
description.
thought we changed it to
No,
21.
I thought we changed it to 21.
No, you
It
changed
was
it to
21.
18.
It's 21.
Oh, good.
Changed
I'm sorry,
it to
then I remember 21.
No, it's all
That's
18.
discussion.
Both of those are 18, and
Oh, okay, then there's no
the assistant
discussion.
and the foreman are 21.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I'm talking about the assistant and foreman.
They're 21.
Yeah, those are the ones I'm talking about.
Well, if you read
Yeah.
the description, you want 6 years experience, so I don't think you're gonna get an 18-year-old that has that, because you can't hold a CDL until you're
Just a
18.
comment before we vote on it, that's all. Any other discussion? Somebody make a motion that we approve the 4 job descriptions as amended?
So moved.
I think we have them moved by Al Sands, second Cap.
Well, that was the original, but
And we
then
discussed it
As
now.
amended, okay.
doing is the amended.
Any discussion, further discussion? So, all in favor of adopting the updated job descriptions for the 4 categories, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Kim, you're on. Investments for the treasurer.
I've been looking at some of the accounts, a little push from Cynthia in the past, but, I did some research on several banks, looking for some better rates when it comes to some of the money that we've got in reserve. since last year, we now have reserve of 100,000 for the Walker Bridge. We have 110,000 for anticipated funds. So those 210,000 is just sitting there in our general fund, and it's sitting in our sweep account. And our sweep account is only getting 0.25% interest, which is pretty typical with all the banks. We also have a money market account that has 204,000. I've not touched the money market in over 3 years. So that's sitting at a money market rate of probably 0.75. I'm not sure what that one is. So my proposal is, and to run it by you guys, to give me permission to move some money around. I made calls. I've called Muskoma Bank. I've talked to Community, who we deal with now, Savings Bank of Walpole, People's United. I'm proposing to move the 204,000 that's sitting in the money market and lock it up into a CD of some sort. Our problem is with FDIC coverage and collateralization. The suggestion is take the 100,000 from the Walker Bridge. We know that project's probably not going to happen between 3 to 5 years. So I could actually lock in the $100,000 for anywhere from 18 months, from 1 year to 3 years. Right now, the best rate is at Community Bank. If I were to do, say I took, there's 100,000 from the Walker Bridge, and if I were to take 100,000 from the 204,000 that's in the money market, so I'd do a 200,000 CD, I could get for 2 years 2.70%. Right now it's sitting at 0.25 in a sweep. 18 months I could get it for 2.65%. So I have a total of 304,000 I can work with. 200 is the best case scenario to put it in a CD, so we're collateralized. Then they are talking about the other 104,000, put it in a repo. And a repo is totally separate for FDIC coverage. That is like a 6-month CD, but that will get 0.75% rather than the sweep at 0.25. So I want to be careful.
What do you call that again?
It's a repo.
A repo,
Yeah.
which is,
It's a collateralized, almost a CD for 6 months. So I can lock it in, I can add to it after 6 months.
Is $200,000 the insured amount?
It would be.
Well, you could take that, put it two different banks.
I could put it in different banks, but the best rate that I'm getting right now is the bank we're at.
Right.
Only because I shopped around,
Yeah.
told them what I was getting, and 3 phone calls later today, they came up with a deal. So I'm getting a deal where I won't have to change banks, which is a huge hassle, but within the application of doing it, I have all the authority to do it, but I need it reflected in the minutes that you give me permission to go ahead and move monies around. My only concern is what is your feeling as to that 100,000 for the Walker Bridge to lock it up for? I mean,
That's not gonna happen.
I was assuming 3 years
yeah,
would be okay.
I wouldn't have a problem.
The only thing that I question is that I believe interest rates are gonna go higher. They're not gonna go lower. So if you lock it in for 3 years, then you lose the opportunity if they do go up. And all I read, or what my financial people tell me, is interest rates are on their way up. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean they're gonna go up 2 points and 3 points, or does it mean quarter point? Who knows?
So I have the bridge possibly at 18 months, 2.65%. The next jump is 2.7. So you're not
Next
gaining
jump is
much,
three
right.
years? Would that be 3 years?
And that would be 3 years also, the 2.7. So we would do the 18 months at 2.65.
I think
That's
after
what I'm
that 3 years, you can probably turn it in for another 3 years.
No, it's not the question. The question is though, in 2 more years, if the rates go up.
Oh, I know, I'm just
So
saying,
maybe
as far as
about
what
a
you may
year
need
of
it.
not-
Not too long a period, don't tie it up for too long.
That's what I
a
mean,
period.
yeah.
Right.
The difference between
6.5 and
2.7
2.7.
is minuscule, so take the 2 years, and then you had your back.
Sure.
18 months.
Yeah,
18 months, whatever it is, yeah.
So, yeah, but I did call 3 different banks and 4 different banks, and that's what I came up with, sticking with, Community Bank. So, I'm
Does
just.
this require a motion?
What I want is what I want is the bottom line. I think I got everything, all the movements around there, but I've got 300,000 at 2.65 at Community Bank, is that what we're saying?
200,000.
200,000, and then 100,000, no,
104.
104,000 in the repo
A
account,
possible repo.
and that's where,
That same bank. I'm staying right in Community.
okay, and then the other 100,000 stays,
That's all there is.
It's only 200,000.
I had 200,000 in a sweep account and money market for 204 to start with.
There's gonna be 200 in the CD and 104 in the repo. That's 304,000.
Right. I think she gave some different scenarios.
Well,
What
no,
that settled
you're
on
taking
is-
100 out of the Walker Bridge, and you're taking 100 and something out of
The
the,
money market.
yeah, that's
And
it.
then the 104 is gonna be in the
Yes.
repo.
does this require a motion?
A motion to let me continue to investigate and move. I mean, I definitely keep you updated. I mean, I can't give you exacts until I really think it out. We just got our audit back today at approximately 3:30, so I gave it to Bill to send to you a draft copy. I kinda like to look at that first before I really jump into this too.
No, I'm
But
just asking what you know.
I'd like a motion for you to give me permission to move money around.
Okay,
I'll make that,
With the
so
best
moved. I'll
interest
make
rate
that motion.
possible.
okay, second, Alan? Yep. Okay, any discussion, further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye? Okay. Alrighty. Rex, you are on, have the floor.
Yeah, so, hopefully you guys got emails that were
We did.
sent around, and so what, the status of things down at the site, you had expressed, concerns about cleaning up the site, which I did, a lot of engaging myself in cleaning up. I've gotten to the point where I've done all I can do. Now there are things for the owner and the tenants to do, which we have letters from them and commitments that they're going to do what is being asked. So combination of those things, and then separating just the idea that the solar application to the Public Utility Commission is separate from the other operations of the property, as Bill has acknowledged, and that. And so what I'm asking is that I put a draft of a request to the PUC that you retract the stay that you requested, so that they can, move forward. The timeliness is, as the project drags out, it just is costing the project more, and that reflects back to ending up costing the community more to invest in it. And I'm also concerned about not being able to keep extending the grant monies that Wyndham Regional has allotted to subsidize low-income and elderly in the community to buy into the solar project. So that's kind of the most timeliness thing of it. As far as anything else anything that actually you have wanted, and anything that is still outstanding that you want, are actually things that are enforceable through the other agencies that Bill can contact regarding anything else on the site, and the owner and the tenants. It's not actually, none of this is actually something the PUC enforces. So given that you have those avenues to enforce these other concerns that you have, or that may be still residual, I'm basically asking you to separate those issues from the application for the solar on the site.
So, just so I'm clear, did you write this letter, or did you write this letter, Bill?
My attorney drafted that.
Okay, so it came from you, it didn't come from
Yes.
the administrator, okay, that's.
I just figured, so can you make it easy for someone
You
to
don't have that one?
see what's up and expedite it?
Put someone,
So you're-
It's on the board.
Yeah. I printed it off, it was on there.
I have another copy if someone wants it.
And there,
I think it's the last page in the packet.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Well, what's holding Rex up now? Because it's not clean? Have you looked at the rest of Cambridgeport?
Yeah.
Or other areas of
The
Grafton.
point is well taken, but I think the thing is that there's not a lot of other Act 250 permits that had to have been issued down there, and this just reflects back to the original Act 250 permit. I tend to agree, I know exactly what
My
you're
feeling is to
saying.
have them go ahead with it.
I agree with it, but I'm just trying to answer your thing about the rest of the village as opposed to Unified Data. That was under an Act 250 permit. I agree with Cynthia. I think if there's some sort of a rationale to continue forward with the potential cleanup and those trailers that are down there, I think if there is a path forward to get that straightened out, I personally see no reason to hold up the rest of the project for it, as long as there's some sort of a path further on down to clean up the rest of the area. I think Rex kind of got hung up in the middle of a couple of different things that were going on down there. It just sort of tripped a whole bunch of stuff that really wasn't his fault as such. He became sort of a pawn to this thing. But I understand that whatever's down there should not have taken place and happened, and I think the rest of the stuff should be taken care of, get those trailers out of the floodway and things like that. And I think the trailers, I understand that one of the letters, there's a lot of paperwork that's associated with this thing. As far as just getting them registered and still up on a pile of 4x4s, I'm not sure it's gonna cut the mustard down there. So they do have to be registered, probably insured
And inspected.
and inspected.
And you can enforce that through other agencies.
No, I agree.
Well, I have to agree with Stan and Cynthia. And Rex, you have done a tremendous job of trying to do it by yourself. And I thank you for that.
Any other discussion?
I would just like to add something to the letter.
Sure.
First of all, I want to thank Rex, because I've given him a tough time. I want to thank him for persevering and coming back into me. We had a long discussion today and basically had the PUC aggressively address the issue of whether or not we could hold him liable for the rest of the property. We probably wouldn't have taken so long, but they kept dragging it out and actually saying that well, we want to hear from you on these issues. So, but there are ways, as I've outlined in the email to you this afternoon, to go about this. But but you got to understand that first of all, we're relying on the junkyard people. I sent him some pictures today, Vince Chorino, and he is going to send to the attorney who is enforcing it on McKay this afternoon and try to get them to clean up the 4 trailers separately. With the caveat that if he takes 2 out of there, he's no longer under their jurisdiction. The other 2 can stay. And they can't stay where they are, but they can stay right along the curb in the front of the property because that's not in the floodplain and we have absolutely no regulation saying they can't be there. And they can rot into the ground there until we have such a regulation. With regard to but they will start to enforce it. But they would have to leave that area because they are in the floodway but that would take enforcement. That means you guys have to say, okay, to the zoning administrator that he go after them and the money is spent to enforce it to get them out of there. That might mean going to court to get that done. Out of where they are now, out of the floodway. The second thing is that Paul Thomas should then apply to the flood board for a permit. I don't see why that would be denied him. It's in the floodplain and not in the floodway. He could have everything he has out there now, and they could condition that him having everything he has out there now by screening it. And if he did that, then he would have a permit to screen that whole thing all the way around, and that would be the end of that. With regard to jurisdiction on that, I've talked to the state flood people. Ordinarily, Act 250, if it's a new Act 250 permit and they're going for the Act 250 permit, it's the flood plain of the state that has the jurisdiction. But since this is an old permit and there's nothing new and we want to enforce our floodplain, they are telling me that it is up to us to enforce our floodplain. So whatever cost that is involved in that, and then Paul would have to pay for a hearing before the DRB to have the, get a permit to do it conditioned on whatever the DRB says it's conditioned on. And hopefully to screen the whole thing off so you don't see it all the way unsightliness. And then he could have it out there. He is saying right now, according to Rex, that he doesn't need much out there. He's scaling back and maybe will be able to do without anything there, which would save him some money in the cost of having here. So, provided that the town is willing to enforce their regs, then this decision of yours is fine, but if everybody's gonna ignore it, it's gonna look like that forever. That's all I'm saying. We've done as much as we can with the state, and I want to thank Rex because he's done a great job in cleaning it up.
So we need should we act on a motion on this to move ahead with this?
I would like to just add to the letter that we will seek, in between those two paragraphs, we will seek something like, we will seek our own remedies to finish the cleanup of the property.
Yes, I was.
With the help of some state agency?
No, we will just seek other remedies. No, we're not, I don't want it to leave the impression that we're happy with what's there. Right.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that, I mean, I personally feel that Rex should continue with the process and let him have it and do it. And yes, you did a great job. But I think that they ought to know that we are gonna pursue the other items that you really have no control of. So that should be added to the letter. And I have no problem with signing that and whatever, so.
And I left it, it's a doc, so it's not a PDF, so Bill can.
No, I know, we can.
Edit into it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can do it, so.
So, I guess,
So I guess we need a motion to send this letter to Judith Whitney.
A corrected letter, or
Yeah,
an amended
yeah,
letter?
Right.
Then I just put, we will seek other remedies to clean up those items and matters still in violation.
Right.
That's all.
So somebody want to make a motion to that effect? So moved. Second? Okay. I guess we had enough discussion, but is there any other discussion from anybody? So all in favor of sending the letter and letting Rex go on with this project, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Neither. Okay, good.
and I'll leave some cards in case, because I'm gonna start collecting names of people who could apply for this grant for the Wyndham, so
Okay.
low income and elderly are eligible, and I'll leave a stack of the cards there on the table.
And what about an explanation for that? I mean, what is the process to that, and what's involved with the actual signing up, and what is it about? Is there
Okay,
a
so in general, so my whole intent with this project is I've done many of these projects over a long number of years, and I've been involved with trying to get some started in different towns in Vermont over the last 5 years, which some of them were built by others. And my intent for my community was to be able to provide the lowest cost community solar project that's been done in Vermont, and I still believe that that will be the case. In addition, there's this grant money so compared to a company like Green Lantern, which has done another project, I expected that our community will be available to purchase in significantly lower than what they're charging in the communities around the state. So what happens is if, so a community member is able to request purchasing a portion of the field. They get ownership of the allotted number of panels that they want. The percentage, all the power that comes from the field goes to Green Mountain Power, and if you own 1/20th of the field, for instance, 1/20th of that power credit goes to your bill automatically through Green Mountain Power. And so just as if you had it on your roof, all the power that comes off the system will be monetized and save money on your bill. As an owner, you get all the benefits of ownership on your own home. You get to use the federal tax credit on it. If it's a business, you get tax credits, plus you're able to depreciate, just as if you had it on your commercial building. The term of the project is a 25-year term, so at the end of 25 years, the project will either be dismantled, or it will be, or a new lease will be drawn up and the project go on. So basically, you own a product for 25 years. At the end of 25 years, you would actually be able to say, I want my 15 panels, and I'm driving up in a truck, and you pick them up. So that's how these projects are designed as far as how they end. More likely than not, most or all of these projects are just going to be continued leases and continued ownership. So in terms of the grant from Wyndham Regional Commission, a person who qualifies as either elderly or low income can purchase a share in it for 50% of what the going rate of the project is to the normal customer, and Wyndham Regional will match their 50% payment for in the project. And the whole intent of that, and this is the first time this has been done in the state, that a grant like this has been in play, and so Wyndham Regional will, I'll submit the name, and Wyndham Regional will actually, we were talking about channeling it through SEVCA, that they would do the authorization for the applicant through to Wyndham Regional Commission. And that's pretty much it.
I don't want to get into the weeds of this thing, but just sort of almost a yes or no on this thing. There is going to be a decommissioning fund.
No. Yes. I don't remember where that landed. It was that.
I mean, there has to be, a 25, at the end of 25 years, we want to make sure that the solar company doesn't walk away and leaves all the cement blocks and, for the taking or whatever.
Yeah, there was, I think.
There has to be some sort of a.
Actually, the state has a requirement, but it's at a larger scale, that at this scale.
So, you will have something that, and however you draw this contract up, that at the end of 25 years, you absolutely guarantee that will be green grass again?
Yeah, and that'll be in the overall contract.
Does anybody have any objection to putting, not all the information, but some information on the town website, so in the event that anybody wants to sign up, they can go directly to,
I've been holding off on marketing until.
No, I'm just.
Until I get the CPG.
It is for the community, and
but,
if somebody wants to take advantage of it.
Yes, yeah, I would, yeah.
I mean, you can't put all the details, but just put, there's a project, call this number or write to this person for details and something of that nature.
If that would be, I'd be happy to submit something to the town for them to put on the website, that'd be
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, so this is something that I can put on the website and a contact, but we don't put other websites on our website. We don't put links to
Right,
websites.
that's fine. That's fine. All righty, any other questions?
Make sure you check our website policy, because we do have one now.
Yeah, just make sure that we're okay. Yeah.
Believe
And
it's
I
part
think,
of marketing,
I also think too that
marketing.
what the, before we put it on, Bill, let's let the select board take a look at it to make sure that we are okay with it, all right? Okay, the wastewater committee, we finally have we had a first meeting, but we have 5 members now. Stan, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, as Joe just said, we're progressing somewhat a little bit slower than I would have liked to have seen this gone, but we are progressing with this. We do have a wastewater committee. We've already met once. I've asked the people that were at that meeting to submit days and times so we can sort of try to get some sort of an idea of what best day and time, and so we can sort of start coordinating these meetings. We all know that getting meetings together with everybody running in different directions is just so hard to get everybody in one place. I'll get there. I'll get there. And so I'm not sure if Bill is, and I don't need to know now, but we were going to send you days and times of what would be the good times to get the water/wastewater committee together. So we are progressing slowly. We do have the committee right now. The committee is made up of Chris Wallace, Paul Halleck, Kim Record, Suzanne Welsh, Matt Ciano, and Joe and I.
And we're ex officio.
Right. So we're sort of just trying to drive this thing forward. I don't know if anybody, most people probably haven't had the opportunity to look at the new town report that's going to be coming out soon, but there are 3 definitive paragraphs within the town report itself that, town plan. There's also something in the town report also, but in the town plan, yes, I stand corrected, in the town plan, there are 3 paragraphs that indicate the somewhat of the need, and I'll just say somewhat of the need to progress with this, and when everybody gets the town plan, we'll be able to see that. But also, if you look in the town report under the Dave Culver's report for the Planning Commission, there's also a paragraph in his report that states somewhat of the need of at least definitively looking into this wastewater thing. So we do have a committee, and we're heading forward to it. And all we want to do then is be able to pick. We had worked some years ago in 2001 and in 2007. I believe we have 2 different engineering firms. And what we want to do with the committee that we have set up right now is to settle on an engineering firm to redo all the stats and everything that they did maybe 18 years ago. So that's kind of what we're doing.
But before we open it up, simply just one more thing. Kathy and I attended a conference up in Killington 6 months ago, I guess it was, whatever. And this thing, organizing the Village Wastewater Solutions, was given to us, and then Stan picked this off the internet. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to have a committee formally created by, endorsed by the select board. You need to include a member of the select board, planning commission, or other town officials, staff, and it goes on. And if you don't do these things, then you're not eligible for grants. So that's why we are taking the procedure that we did. And I can't talk about 2007, but I know 2001, I was on the board with Stan, with Ty and Bond, and we did not do that process, so. Any discussion? Cynthia?
How many are on the board? 5 or 6?
There's 5 individuals and Joe and I, so there's 7.
But we don't vote, we're just.
So
we're
I
just
got
ex officio.
Chris and Paul and Kim and Suzanne
Matt Ciano?
and Matt. I missed.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
So, Are you going to appoint, or is that committee gonna appoint a chair, or are you running the meetings?
No, they are.
Who's gonna run the meetings?
They are, they're gonna appoint, they have to have the organization meeting, and they'll appoint a chair and whatever. It's not the select board's, committee. I mean, it is, but it isn't. I don't know how to explain it, but.
So have they been given a list of objectives that they're to accomplish?
We haven't, we just had a very basic, we had a meet and greet, basically, is all we had. We hadn't gotten to that point, we will do that. But all we did is the last meeting was just got everybody together, get a very general where we want to go with this thing, and then we'll do an organization.
And I believe that I instructed Bill, or Stan and I instructed Bill that they would send this to each of the members. And I think you all got this, did you not? Yeah.
I don't think they got it.
No? Okay, well, we'll get.
Well, I sent them one,
Okay, we'll get it anyway. So this gives them what their goals are. This is, all the stuff here that, and, that's necessary for them to set their objectives and whatever.
The kind of little feedback or rumblings that I've heard is that they're, and I want clarification because it may not be right what I heard, but it was they have to pick between a water system, a water supply system, or a wastewater system, one or the other.
Or nothing at all.
That was the question I was going to raise is, Noreen and I had a fairly long conversation the other morning over breakfast that when you look at the activity right there in the center of town and the houses and the full-time residents is much different right now than it was when we came to town in the 70s and 80s. There's very few permanent residents there. And so you still have to have clean water, you still gotta have septic disposal, I understand that. But the amount of water usage has to be less than it was when there were full-time families living in those houses around the store and such. So, and the reason I bring that up is when they get all said and done, that might be one of the things I say, with the current use, it's working as it is. So I just think it's important that the committee is allowed to do research and come up with a recommendation without being told, you gotta pick this or you gotta pick that.
You want to respond to that, or
No.
shall I?
No, I don't.
So I will respond to this. There is the intent here, and Kathy could probably back me up, listening to the proposal that was given by the state or whoever did this Department of Environmental Conservation. The purpose of the committee is to do the investigation, find the need, and then at some point in time, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, when it's established that it is or isn't, take it to the town for a vote. The committee will be exposed to Wyndham Regional, state agencies, federal agencies, visiting various towns who have done the system, who are in the process of doing the system. So I can assure you that the committee will have every tool available for them to make a decision. And there'll be meetings, public hearings of the town, so the town can understand before any vote is ever taken, if it ever gets to that point. So, I think Stan would agree with me. This is a committee that has to do some work.
I think it's important that we learn from a couple of different experiences we've had in town, and I think having quality information out for the public as to how this is supposed to work. If people don't know how it works, they'll create, the rumor mill will start, and I think there's people in town that are already against it because they don't understand how the process is gonna work. So I think being proactive with some information to people about this, a letter to the Grafton News explaining the process. I think that's really important. Otherwise, people are gonna have their mind made up before you even get started.
Just remember that it's a public committee, so anybody can attend.
I
And
understand.
And I would have to tell you, I speak for myself, it all has to be out in the public, it has to be notified, people have to be kept abreast of it, because otherwise it'll never work. And that's my feeling.
I just want to add, along with the transparency you're talking about, we gained this information when we went to the conference on economics for our community. And without water and our waste that we need to deal with, we want to encourage economic growth in Grafton. So that was one of the highlights of that particular information that we got.
Any other discussion? Public comment?
Yes,
Yes?
just to make sure everybody is aware, pre-town meeting, 26th, 6:30 at the school.
Pre-meeting.
Yeah, pre-town meeting, and absentee ballots are available. If anybody is not going to be around for town meeting, I have them in my office. So you can come in and vote early.
And all.
Any other business?
Yeah.
Any other business?
I have,
Oh,
couple of things. I attended a Saxons River Watershed Collaborative meeting yesterday. Couple things coming up with the Trahan property and the town pool, which is on 121. She did apply for 2 grants for the plantings. She'll know in March, and this is planting trees for the streams grant. There's a workshop coming up in March on the stream table for educators at the middle school. We'll get information out on that. And a workshop possibly in April or May on invasive species, especially the knotweed.
Trying to
Just
start
one.
eating now.
Or get some goats.
Yeah.
So I'll get you information on those grants. I'll give a copy to Bill, so we have it. And at some point, the board would have to make some recommendations or a motion so we can get some monies.
Okay. So let Bill know, we'll put you on the agenda. Just as a reminder, the town plan, I know all the select people have picked up the town plan. I would make sure you read it. Any comments that you have on the plan, get it to Bill, and then we can pass them on to the planning commission. And hopefully right after town meeting, the select board can start to deal with the town plan and hold some hearings. Anything else? Date of the next meeting is March 4th. The next day is the town meeting. So we will meet here at 6 o'clock on March 4th. Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Well, thank you for all coming. And don't forget, we have a presentation, so make sure you do your studying and homework. If you have any questions of Bill or Kim or anybody else, they're here to help you.